We're back with PFL Mena. It is the second PFL Mena card of the year from Riyadh. Saudi Arabia, 11 fights on this card. Main evented in the welterweight division with the reigning PFL Mena welterweight champ, Mommar Al-Dafrawy. He's taking on Daniel Miceli from PFL Europe. That's the fight in the main event, but not a PFL Mena tournament fight. Al-Dafrawy, after knocking out Alaqraa in the championship fight last year, is not going to defend his championship in the tournament. And that's what I still don't get about the PFL. Why isn't Al-Dafrawy back in the tourney? What is he doing better than fighting for the championship again? Because yeah, like he's fighting in a main event here, but at the end of the season, they're going to crown a new champion and it's not going to be him. So is Al-Dafrawy eventually going to fight the winner of the 170 tournament? I don't know. It's like the whole thing, like they're doing a women's flyweight tournament. It's going to be Jenna Bishop and Liz Carmouche in the championship fight for 125. But Dakota Ditcheva is fighting Sumiko Inaba next month. So, and she's the champ. It doesn't make sense. I don't know what they're doing. But anyways, we've got 11 fights on this card. I locked in and actually made graphics now for PFL, so we'll get to that later. But folks, before we get into the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more PFL action here on the channel. We are less than 70 subs away from 1,000, so let's make that happen as soon as possible. Tomorrow, our PFL Europe predictions. Patrick Habaroa takes on Danny Roberts in the main event from Brussels. We're going to have that full card prediction out for you tomorrow. No UFC this week. We'll be back next week for the Nashville card with Derek Lewis and Taliesin Teixeira in the main event over there. Also, main channel Greedo plays daily MLB best bets. Go subscribe. Link in the description down below. Okay, so I locked in, made graphics, and here we go. Boom. Yeah, so finding pictures for all of these guys, ooh, it was brutal. Now, it'll be a lot easier for the actual PFL and PFL Europe, but my goodness, PFL Mena, and we're going to start PFL Africa coming up, and I think they're doing, PFL Oceania, they're calling it, something like that. I will have all PFL content here on the channel. Those, it's going to be hard to find images. I'm just going to be honest with you. Anyways, our first fight of the night happens in the catchweight division. It's a welterweight fight, they're calling it as, but it's at 160, so I don't know. Amateur fight here between Abdulaziz bin Mommar and Hassan Ahmed Mohamed. I'm going with Abdulaziz bin Mommar to win the fight. By the way, I have no odds for any of these fights in the entire card. I cannot find a single book as of, I'm recording this video a little bit earlier, as of late Thursday, I can't find any odds for any of these fights. I'm sure they'll pop up like a day before the fight. Can't find anything though right now. This is an amateur fight, so obviously no odds here. I'll get through this one very quickly. I'm taking bin Mommar to win. Not much backing here other than the fact that this fight's in Saudi Arabia, and bin Mommar is from Saudi Arabia. Close decision's going to go his way. He's 1-0. 1-1 fight in PFL Mena earlier this year. He beat Faraz Hamdani by decision, so I think he wins this fight by decision. His opponent, Hassan Ahmed Mohamed, is coming off a loss in Nightmare FC to a 2-1 amateur fighter. Again, this is amateur MMA, so this really doesn't mean anything. I'm going to take bin Mommar to win the fight by decision. I know from picking a lot of these PFL cards in the past, and how Baggio Ali Walsh fights as well in the PFL. Usually there's a guy they want to win the amateur fights. Trust me, they're trying to build up the Saudi Arabian guy so he can eventually fight professional fights. Like Malik Bashir, whose name was, same exact thing with him early in the PFL Mena days as well. So I'm going to take Abdulaziz bin Mommar to win this fight against the 21-year-old Mohamed by decision. Next up, we move to a matchup here. I think she's still fighting amateurs. Yes, Hatan Alsaif is still fighting amateur MMA. She is one of their bigger stars. You look at the poster on this card, she is straight in the middle, right? This is one of the big stars PFL Mena is trying to build up. I'm surprised, honestly, she's not on the main card, but here she is in her 4th professional mixed martial arts fight, all of which have been with the PFL, and she's taken on Noor Al-Fiti in this fight. Alsaif is actually pretty solid. Now, again, would she be solid in the professional realm? I don't know. Okay, she's a 105 pounder, so she's an atom weight. And I think women's atom weight should be a thing. I'm gonna be honest with you. The UFC got rid of 145. I think a lot of promotions should cut 145 and just replace it with 105. The fights are better, and not to really get too into Juliana Pena propaganda, but Juliana Pena kind of made a fair point. She said a lot of 145-pound fighters are just 135-pounders who just don't want to cut weight anymore. And she's not really wrong about that. So I think 105 should actually be a weight class like everywhere. PFL, UFC. Laura Sanko is a huge advocate for women's atom weight. Regardless, though, Alsaif's pretty good. Again, I just don't know what she'll be outside of this PFL Mena bubble, let's just be honest. They're giving her a fighter they know she can beat. Noor Al-Fiti, who is from Lebanon. She's 1-1 as an amateur, won her first amateur fight, but then fought an 8-2 amateur and lost by second round armbar. Alsaif's pretty good for an amateur, and she's got really good hands. All 3 of her wins are by second round knockout. I'm going second round knockout again, okay? Or TKO. I believe she's going to get a finish. Again, amateur fights, I understand. You know, it doesn't really mean much, but we know what the PFL is trying to do here. They are trying to build a fighter, and I'm going to go with the fighter they are trying to build in Hatan Alsaif. I think she's going to beat Noor Al-Fiti by second round TKO. They'll take their time with her, like Baggio Ali Walsh had like 9 amateur fights in the PFL or 8 amateur fights in the PFL before he just started fighting pro. So they're going to take their time. She'll continue to be on every PFL Mena card, and they'll keep getting her victories. She's not losing to a 1-1 fighter from the Lebanon. It's just not happening. So give me Alsaif to win the fight by second round TKO. Let's move on now to our third fight of the night, and we move to the first PFL Mena tournament fight of the night. It's going to be at bantamweight, as we have got Jordan's own Noras Abzakh taking on Sweden's Ali Yazbeck. Again, the fight here at bantamweight. I'm going Yazbeck to win the fight, and I don't think it's that tough of a pick. Yazbeck's 5-0-1. Abzakh from Jordan is 33 years of age, and he's 12-6. He's had one fight in PFL Mena before, and that's against Ali Taleb. Now, Taleb ended up winning the PFL Mena tournament last year by beating Rashid Haas in the main event. He is now going to fight PFL Europe, and they gave him Taylor Laplus. We'll talk about that fight tomorrow. I don't know if I like that for Ali Taleb. Yeah, I really don't like that for Ali Taleb. Why do they do that? Guy goes from fighting in PFL Mena to Taylor Laplus, who should not have been cut from the UFC. Weird matchmaking. Anyways, so I don't really know where to put Noras, because that is his only loss in PFL Mena to Ali Taleb, but he is 1-2 in his last 3. A loss to Victor Nunez back in UAE Warriors in 2023, a win in early 2024, but then again got beat by decision by Taleb. For Ali Yazbeck, this is a guy who's 5-0-1, coming off a split draw in his last fight in UAE Warriors. But this is a guy who has shown really good jiu-jitsu. He's able to go out there, get submissions, and I don't think anything's going to be different in this fight in terms of what he's going to try to do. I think he's going to try to get the fight on the ground. However, Abzakh is a grappler too, right? His only really pathway to victory in most fights is through submission or through grappling. He's got 7 submission wins. He is not good on the feet. He does get rocked a lot, and he's been knocked out 3 times. So I think it makes for kind of an interesting fight. I'm going to go Yazbeck. I think he's slightly better. Again, he hasn't lost 6 times. He's never lost at all, and he's not 33 years of age. Actually, well, Typology doesn't even know this guy's age. That's great. But I am going to go Yazbeck. I think he's fought better competition outside of the Ali Taleb fight, obviously, for Abzakh. And I think he's the younger fighter. I think he's the more skilled fighter, and we haven't seen him lose 6 times already. Again, Naros the Honey Badger is his nickname from Jordan. A lot of his losses are by TKO. Obviously, that's probably not going to be a thing here, but I'm going to go with the Swedish fighter here in Ali Yazbeck to win the fight by decision, moving on to the second round of the PFL Mena tournament. Our fourth fight of the night comes now still in the bantamweight division. We have got Elias Boudegzdame. He's back. I still butcher his last name. He's fighting Mehdi Saadi in this fight. For Elias, this is a guy who fought in PFL Mena last year, made it to the playoffs, which actually you only needed to win 1 fight to make the playoffs. That's okay. He beat in his first fight, it was, Hassan Mandour. He was a huge favorite, ended up winning the fight by second round submission. Then gets a playoff fight against Rashid Haas, who ended up losing the championship fight to Ali Taleb. Elias ends up losing that fight by unanimous decision. So he's back, and he's taking on Mehdi Saadi, a guy who's coming off a really impressive win over Jalal Al-Daja. Now, Al-Daja's record isn't very good, but he's a guy who had been around PFL Mena quite a bit. He's 11-9. I will say I think that's a good victory to get. That was back in UAE Warriors in January of 2024. Saadi went in there and got the TKO finish. This is a guy who has challenged for the Aries FC Championship before. Lost to Demarte Pena back in May of 2023. So there's something. My only thing with Saadi is the inactivity. He's been booked twice since his last fight in UAE Warriors. He's booked in Aries FC. Fight fell through, was booked to fight in the PFL Europe Championship card. He was not medically cleared to compete that night. He's going to take on a guy here in Elias who has been around PFL Mena before, has fought some decent guys. I mean, we talk about Demarte Pena, a guy who Saadi lost to for the for the Aries FC Championship, while Elias fought Demarte Pena back in 2023 as well in a main event over in Aries. Fought a former UFC name in Jesse Arnett. He's fought Bubba Jenkins, obviously, who has been in and around the PFL Championship picture for quite a while as well. I could have sworn Jesse Arnett was in the UFC at one point. I guess he wasn't. He fought in... I could have sworn that guy was a UFC fighter. I guess I was mistaken. It's Austin Arnett. Oh my god, Austin Arnett was the UFC fighter. Anyways, well, that works too. Austin Arnett fought Elias as well, and Elias actually beat Austin Arnett back in 2020. So regardless, though, he lost to Jesse Arnett, who was, I believe, Canadian Unified MMA guy. Yeah, I could have sworn he was in the UFC, but it was Austin. Anyways, I'm kind of split on this because Mehdi Saadi hasn't really fought, and Elias isn't bad. He's 31. Tapology, 29% voters are going with Elias, 71% of voters going with Mehdi Saadi. I get why, because Saadi's win over Jalal Daja, and Elias actually has only won one fight in 3 years. Yeah, I'll go Mehdi Saadi here. Yeah, I'll go Saadi by decision. It's a tough fight again, because yes, Elias does have victories, but then when you really look at those are victories back in like 2020. You know, recently he really hasn't done much other than a victory over Hassan Mandur in the first round of the tournament last year in PFL Mena. And sure, Saadi hasn't really done much other than beating Jalal Daja, but I like his grappling more, personally. No, Elias is a pretty good grappler too. They're both good grapplers. Yeah, Elias actually has 16 submissions. I don't know. I'll go Mehdi Saadi. Yeah, I would stay away from this fight. If you're thinking about betting on this one, I would stay away from it. Just because, again, I don't know what we're going to get out of Saadi. He's been booked quite a bit. Hasn't actually gotten to fight. Fought for the Aries FC Championship and lost. Elias has beat guys, but recently he hasn't really done much. Yeah, ever so slightly, I'm going to go Mehdi Saadi. Yeah, I'll go Mehdi Saadi by decision. I'm not confident at all on that one, though. I kind of want to go Elias, but I'll go Saadi by decision. Yeah. Oh, I'm split on that. I don't know. Yeah. Go Mehdi Saadi. Anyways, let's go on to our next fight. We move to a matchup here in the welterweight division. We have got Rostam Akman taking on Amir Fazli. Okay, so this one's interesting because Rostam Akman is actually a former UFC fighter. He's 7-4 professionally. He wasn't very good in the UFC, don't get me wrong, right? This is a guy who went 0-2 over there, lost to Sergey Kondosko, and then fought Jake Matthews after, lost both those fights by decision. I believe he got 30-27 in both of those. Comes back to the regional scene, fights Ian Machado Gary in a fight that had pretty even odds. Gets knocked out, obviously, by Ian Machado Gary, and loses to Andreas Binder after that. And then beats Dajmil Chan in his last fight back in February of 2023. He's been booked against Chris Fishgold since, and another fighter. Neither of those happened. He's taken on Amir Fazli, who lost back-to-back fights last year in PFL Mena to Mohamed Alaqraa and to Babardine Diani. This is a guy, though, who is a former UAE Warriors champion, won the middleweight championship back in 2023. So the question you have to ask yourself, right, is do you think Akman is still, like, somewhat competent enough to beat a low-level regional guy? Because I'll be honest, I don't know how Akman even made the UFC, right? I just don't know. He won fights in Superior Challenge in the Swedish regional scene, and then he somehow gets Kondosko on a fight card in Sweden. I mean, that's probably why they did it. Was that a main card fight? No, it was a prelim. It was a featured prelim. Wow. Yeah. He was kind of built as a really good striker. Well, not a really good striker, but like a heavy-hitting striker who can grapple you, obviously, right? But a guy who's going to throw hard. He hasn't really done that. He's won one fight since 2019. But Amir Fazli, right, hasn't really won much either. I don't know. Is Akman that washed? He can't beat, just a regional guy who's 0-2 in PFL Mena? Because Alaqraa, I guess, good. Diani, not bad as well. So if you remember, last year, Diani fought Fazli in the first round. Diani beats Fazli. Diani had to pull out, though, of the second round fight, so Fazli came back in and fought Alaqraa. So Alaqraa just got to fight the loser of the last fight. Alaqraa beat him and obviously got to Dafarwy and lost in the championship fight. We'll get to that later. So I don't really know where to put this. I'm actually going to go Rostem Akman here. I'm going to go with, I believe, the guy who's going to be an underdog here. Only 14% of voters are going with him. I am going to pick him to win. I understand he's looked god-awful. It's not like Amir Fazli's done much, though. Well, his win in UAE Warriors, but that was against that was against an old, obese 185 or 205 pounder. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Rostem Akman to win. I'm actually gonna go with him by knockout. If he's gonna win, he's probably gonna KO Fazli. So I'm gonna go Rostem Akman here, not just because he fought in the UFC once. No, I think he's better than Fazli, who hasn't done anything in the PFL. He fought Alaqraa to a 15-minute decision. Don't care. Going Rostem Akman to win. We're going with the big underdog here to win by first round knockout. Next up, we go to a matchup here back in the 170-pound division. Oh, Fazli's going down to 172? Yeah, because it's a 185-pounder for the most part, I think, right? Well, fought 170 last year, didn't do all that well. He was a minus 455 favorite against Diani. Wow. Yeah, he's not that good, man. He's not that good. We stick in the welterweight division. Here is Baberdine Diani, as he's going to be taking on Ahmed Abdel Baset. I don't know where they found Ahmed Abdel Baset, because he's 1-0 professionally. Now, they might tell you he's 4-0, but Tapology, if you look at his record, look at his Tapology page, he's got 3 fights that have been flagged by Tapology for suspicious business, okay? So he's fought 3 guys who have record ineligible, or have the record ineligible MMA tag on them. Baset's only credible wins against a 1-2 Issa Basim by decision. Diani, the dream chaser, is actually pretty good. He went out there as a plus 400 dog in the first round of the PFL tournament last year and beat Amir Fazli by decision. Huge, right? Was supposed to fight Alaqraa, had to drop out of that fight. And obviously we saw Fazli lose to Alaqraa right after. But this is a pretty good fighter, former UAE Warriors champion back in 2023. Really good grappling. He can get you down and he will give you trouble. I don't know how Baset's here. Just don't know. I think this is one-way traffic, and I don't really think the fight is close. I think it's a unanimous decision here for Diani, and I think he wins every single round. I think he's got to be looked at as one of the favorites to win the welterweight tournament. Again, he will be fighting the winner of Fazli and Akman. Okay, I think Diani probably wins both of those, and we'll get to the other side of the bracket later on in the video, of course, with Omar Hussein and Mohamed Alaqraa. But I do think Diani probably has to be the favorite to get out this side of the bracket and at least, go to the championship fight. I think he gets Baset fairly easily here. I like the grappling out of Diani, and there's too small of a sample size here for Ahmed Abdel Baset. You fought guys who don't really exist, let's just be honest. They're fake fights. They're against guys who are kind of just out there, just thrown out there to take an L. Don't like that. I don't know where the PFL found this guy. He's 1-0. Again, they'll tell you he's 4-0. He's really 1-0, okay? He's got a fake record. Diani, we've seen go in there and be tested before. I'm going with Baberdine Diani to win this fight in the welterweight division, advancing to the second round. I'm taking him to beat Ahmed Abdel Baset by unanimous decision. We move on now to our next fight, and it is a matchup here in the bantamweight division. Mokhtar Benkaci, taking on Marcel Adur. Benkaci is a huge favorite to win this fight, and I think for good reason. He's going to win this one, and I think he has to be looked at as one of the favorites to win the bantamweight tournament. Argue maybe he is the favorite to win it. Now, guys, I don't want to put PFL Mena down here. I'm just gonna keep it a buck. PFL Europe's better than PFL Mena. Okay, it just is. The level of fighters over there are better. You saw, did Yanis Gamodi ever fight in PFL Europe? I know he's a former UFC fighter, but anyways, like Yanis Gamodi came into PFL Mena, and he's likely gonna win the bracket. We'll see him later on in the year, but he won his first fight pretty handily. PFL Europe guys should be able to come up here and just dust up the PFL Mena fighters. Hell, look at Ali Taleb. Ali Taleb, I know, again, kind of a highly touted prospect for PFL, but he's a guy who, they held in very high regard at one point in time. He didn't do that well in PFL Europe. They send the guy back to PFL Mena, wins the PFL Mena tournament, comes back now to PFL Europe, and he's going to be fighting Taylor Lake-Luce later this week, right? So PFL Europe talent is usually better than PFL Mena talent. Mokhtar Benkaci is a PFL Europe guy. He is a French fighter who fought in PFL Europe back in 2023, and he lost both of his fights. He fought Khurshid Kaharov, lost by unanimous decision, and lost to Franz Malabo by split decision. Franz Malabo and Khurshid Kaharov ended up fighting in the championship fight, and Kaharov knocked out Malabo. Now, where Malabo's been since, I don't know. Where Kaharov has been since, I don't know. He hasn't fought in over a year. Where do these guys disappear to? I don't know. But anyways, those are Benkaci's only losses. It's to the two guys who ended up fighting in the championship fight. What has he done since? He's won 4 straight fights. Beating a fighter who's making their pro debut, don't like that, but beat a 10-10 fighter, beat a 20-18 fighter, and beat a 7-4 fighter earlier this year in February. Those are decent victories. It shows that, okay, he didn't win in PFL Europe, but he fought the 2 toughest guys in the weight class, and he's bounced back, and he's been pretty solid. He's taken on Marcel Adur here, who is a fighter coming out of Lebanon. He won his last fight over a former UFC fighter in Guido Canetti. Guido Canetti's like 44, though. Now, Demarte Pena is another guy who, Marcel Adur is another guy who lost to Demarte Pena. They just need to get Demarte Pena in PFL Europe at this point. I mean, he's beating everybody. Or get him in PFL Africa. He's from Angola. He's 35. Just lost his last fight to Xavier Alaoui, who we're going to talk about in a little bit. How does Demarte Pena fight everybody in PFL Mena? This is crazy. Yeah, get this guy. He trains out of South Africa. Get him on PFL Africa. Yeah, what are we doing here? Anyways, Adur beat Guido Canetti. I don't put anything into that. Guido Canetti's 45, 44 years of age. I just think Adur is out for a tough test here. Test with Benkaci. Adur hits hard. He's got good power for the weight class. However, I've seen, Mokhtar go out there and fight heavy-handed fighters before and be okay. He hasn't been knocked out ever. He's got 12 knockouts in his own right. I think where he wins is through the grappling. Every single loss Benkaci has had, he's 24-9. Every loss has been by decision. I think he goes here and grapples, and I think he sees a lot of success against a guy who just primarily wants to strike. And ultimately, I do think Mokhtar Benkaci wins this fight by decision, and I think it's kind of one-way traffic as well. I just think he's on slightly a different level. I'm going to go with the French fighter here in Mokhtar Benkaci to win this fight by unanimous decision. We now go and we stay in the bantamweight division for a matchup here between Xavier Alaoui and Zayed Ayman Mokhtar. Should be an interesting one. You've got the fighter fighting out of Quebec here in Alaoui, who does have a fight against Demarte Pena. Everybody does. He actually beat Demarte Pena in his last fight by split decision in UAE Warriors, taking on a guy here in Zayed Ayman Mokhtar, who is 4-1, but hasn't really fought anybody. He is coming off a win in PFL Mena last year. He beat Hadi Omar Al-Sulani, who was 6-1-1, a guy who ended up winning on his last fight in the PFL Champions Series early in January. The thing about Mokhtar is that he has a bunch of guys who are record ineligible MMA on his record, so you don't love that, but he has shown, okay, you can go out there and pick up submission victories like his last fight in PFL Mena. For Xavier Alaoui, this is a guy who fought in PFL Mena last year, lost in the first round to Rashid Haas, who ended up losing to Ali Taleb in the championship fight, and the bread man, Alaoui, got submitted in the second round in that fight. He did come off a split decision victory over Demarte Pena, fought a UFC fighter and a highly touted prospect in Vinicius Oliveira back in UAE Warriors back in 2021. I don't really know why Alaoui is such a huge favorite in this one. I don't get that. He's 33, Mokhtar is 27, and Mokhtar is coming off a victory in which he submitted his opponent. Alaoui is supposed to be a good grappler. He's lost 2 out of his last 3 fights. I'll be honest, he's 4-1 against a 15-6 guy. I'm going with the Egyptian here. I'm going Zayed Ayman Mokhtar here. Again, I wouldn't go with him if it wasn't for that victory he picked up as a plus 425 dog in his last one, but he beat a 5-0 fighter by submission. Late in the round, I get it. I think he's able to go out there and see a lot of success in the ground against Xavier Alaoui. Again, I'm picking another underdog here. I think he gets it done. Alaoui lost 2 of 3, barely got by against Demarte Pena, got submitted by Rashid Haas when he tried to fight in PFL Mena last year. I don't know if he gets subbed. I'm going to take him to get subbed. I'm going Ayman Mokhtar here by second round submission. I think he finds it against a guy who's just 7 years older, 34. Again, 34 years old at 135 pounds is not the end of the world, but you're not really getting that much better at 34, right? You're kind of just you're remaining the same fighter, if not getting worse, you know? And obviously there's exceptions to that. Hell, look at the champion in the UFC at 135 pounds in Murabishvili. But for the most part, you're not really getting too much better at 34 years of age at 135 pounds. So I'm going to take the younger guy who's had less mileage and just won last year by submission in PFL Mena. I'm going to take the guys who actually won in the PFL before. And I know, again, only 5 pro fights. But I'm going to take Zayed Ayman Mokhtar to win. If it wasn't for that last fight, I wouldn't take him. But he looked pretty good in that fight. At least, you know, finding a way to win late in the fight. I like that. I'm going to take him to get it done earlier this time, though. We're going to go with the Egyptian by second round sub. We move on now to the welterweight division. We've got our final 2 tournament fights of the night, both again at welterweight. The first one being Mohamed Zarey taking on Ayman Galal. Might be one of the more easy fights to pick. These last 3 actually aren't that difficult. I'll just be honest. But Mohamed Zarey and Ayman Galal, going with the Norwegian fighter here in Mohamed Zarey. The guy who's 9-1, only lost his back in 2023. He's won 4 consecutive fights. This guy's going to go down here and he's going to drown, I think, Galal on the ground. I look at what Ayman Galal has done. He has not beat a single fighter with a actual record ever. That's not going to cut it. I'm going Mohamed Zarey by first round sub, by the way. Look at Ayman Galal. This guy, you know, we can look at all of his wins. 0-1 fighter, 0-0, 0-3. Again, he's coming off a win over an 0-3 fighter in 20 seconds. Sure, by Anaconda choke, that's great, but he's an 0-3 fighter you just beat in October of last year. Just, I don't know. You found some guy off the street and you beat him in an MMA fight, okay? Zarey actually is somewhat proven. I know I say that in his last fights against a 14-35 guy, but I'll just be honest. I'm taking a win over a 14-35 guy over a win against an 0-3 guy. At least the 14-35 guys won 14 fights. You know, but even fights before that, like 7-7 fighter, 17-12. I'm going to take those fights. He's had more experience, and I like his grappling a lot more. I mean, again, Zarey is just a very, very physically strong guy. He's going to drag you down. He's going to look for submissions. Again, he's going to get you with, like, power chokes, like an arm triangle or whatnot. That's fine. Again, I think he's able to get that fairly early in this fight. Again, both these guys, to be honest, are kind of fraudulent. I just think Zarey's better than Galal. And I think Zarey's going to see a lot of trouble in his next fight when he likely takes on Mohamed Alaqraa. But I'll get to that later. As for now, I'll get to that in just a second. I'm going with the Kurdish gorilla in Mohamed Zarey to beat Ayman Galal by first round sub. And now here we go to our co-main event of the evening. Here is Omar Hussein taking on Mohamed Alaqraa. 2 California guys, actually. It's a battle of NorCal here. Mohamed Alaqraa training out of AKA over in San Jose, California, and Omar Hussein training out of Team Alpha Male over in Sacramento, California. They're both going to fly over to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia to fight. Anyways, Omar Hussein is 11-6 professionally. I'll be honest, he's getting thrown to the wolves here, guys. Just is. The PFL, they're likely going to get their way, I think. Alaqraa should be the huge favorite to win this thing. I think Diani might give him a little bit of trouble if I'm just looking forwards for the rest of this tournament. That might be the fight where I say, you know, that's a tough one for Mohamed Alaqraa. The next fight that he's going to get, I think it's going to be Zarey. I think that's going to be a really easy fight for him. Omar Hussein fought in PFL once. Actually, not PFL Mena, fought in a PFL, I believe, American card, right? No, it's when they did the playoffs in England. Anyways, when Kayla Harrison fought Martina Genjihova, not Genjihova, Martina Ginjirova in the playoffs. Anyways, Hussein fought on that card, got subbed in the second round, lost to Abbas Khan recently. There's nothing there, I'm going to be honest with you. Mohamed Alaqraa, he was supposed to win last year. He was, right? AKA guy, if you saw, he was on all the posters last year for the PFL. Won his first 2 fights, got the fight against Omar Dafarwy. I thought was doing pretty well. Ended up getting clipped. He goes in for a takedown, gets the single, and then Dafarwy just kind of touches him with an inside inside hook, and it drops Alaqraa and finishes him. It was really weird. It did not look like it landed, and watching it live, I was like, why is this guy out? Dafarwy connected on the chin. They showed the replay. All right, he landed. I don't know if that's just, all right, that's the power Dafarwy's got, or is Alaqraa's chin not that good, and he hasn't really been tested yet. Now, that's not going to matter here, because he's not going to get tested here. Let's keep it spade a spade here. He's not getting tested against Omar Hussein, who is primarily a grappler, who has, like, the the Charles Rosa effect. Like, if he's a better grappler, he's going to find a way to sub you. If he's not, if you want to grapple him, you could easily submit him. You know, but he's not a guy who's going to challenge Alaqraa on the feet. So that being said, I do think Alaqraa is going to see a lot of success striking in this fight. And ultimately, I think he's going to win. So I'm going to go Mohamed Alaqraa by first round knockout. He's a better striker than Omar Hussein. Actually, is he going to get a finish? He only has 2 finishes. No, I'll go decision. He'll probably just dominate from pillar to post. Yeah, Mohamed Alaqraa by decision. Because Omar Hussein, he's actually never been finished on the feet, I don't think. Never been finished on the feet. Alaqraa, not the most finishing potential. Yeah, I'll just go Alaqraa by decision. That's the safer pick. We go on to the main event in the welterweight division. It is not a playoff fight. It is not a tournament fight. It is just the PFL Mena champion in Omar Dafarwy taking on Daniel Miceli. Okay, I'm going Omar Dafarwy to win. Again, I don't get why this fight is being made, but Dafarwy is being set up with the easiest first round knockout ever in this fight. It's the easiest thing for him. I was surprised, and we just talked about it, I was really surprised about the power that he showed in his championship fight against Alaqraa. Clipped him with a short left hook and put him down and put him out. Obviously finished it with some ground and pound. But Dafarwy's run to the championship last year was really impressive. I mean, he knocked out Hussein Al-Sawali before he ended up beating Alaqraa. That's a really good run. He's got power, 8 knockouts so far in the career. He's 30 years of age, fighting out of Bali, Indonesia, originally from Egypt. And he's taken on Daniel Miceli here, who has fought in PFL Europe before, won a fight against Yassin Najid by Von Flue choke back in 2024, then beat Ibrahim Mane by TKO, ultimately losing to Florim Zindeli in the championship fight. However, this is a guy who eats punches for a living. And I guess you can say that about every MMA fighter. But his face is kind of a punching bag. I'm just going to be honest. He blocks punches with his face. Miceli's been knocked out 5 times so far in his career, and he's 37. That's usually not a good formula. I'm just going to be honest. If you're 37 and you've been knocked out 5 times, not good. Against a guy who is finding his power and finding it really effectively right now. It's not a good matchup for him. You're 37, you're getting a guy who just knocked out the poster boy for all the PFL Mena cards. I think Dafarwy's going to win. Again, he avenged his loss in 2019 to Alaqraa, and it's weird. This guy was 6-5 at one point in time. He's all of a sudden found it. He's won 7 straight fights. He's 13-5, and now he gets the benefit of the easy PFL booking. They see, all right, this is our star in PFL Mena. He's on the poster of this card. It's him and Miceli at the top, obviously. They're going to give him favorable matchups. And this is exactly what this is. This is a favorable matchup for him to go out there and win. Miceli's not getting any younger. His chin's not getting any better. 37-year-old against a guy who just knocked out Alaqraa, knocked out Al-Sawali, who is kind of chinny as well. I think that's the comp I'll make. Again, I don't know if Miceli will probably be able, he will probably strike and be willing to strike with Dafarwy. I think he probably thinks he's a better striker. I mean, why wouldn't he? I just don't think he's able to hang in there because of his chin. And even if his chin holds up, I do expect Dafarwy to win just because of the damage that guy does with his punches. He has power. Look at that. I can't talk about it enough. That win over Alaqraa is huge. Alaqraa is doing all right against him. He's blitzing him early in the fight, goes in for a takedown, short left hook, puts him down, and knocks him out after a fight in which he just knocked out Hussein Al-Sawali. Those are big back-to-back wins. I think he beats Dafarwy here. I think Dafarwy beats Miceli here, and I think he knocks him out in the first. So I'm going with the PFL champion fighting out of Indonesia, originally from Egypt, and Omar Dafarwy to win in his first fight since becoming PFL welterweight champion. He is going to get it done by first round knockout against Daniel Miceli. So folks, thank y'all for watching our PFL Mena 2 predictions here from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. If you haven't yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, thank y'all for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for more PFL content, PFL Europe predictions over from Brussels. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.